Week 11 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few defense DST units. I have as sleepers this week. The first one, the Indianapolis Colts. I know it's a little bit far-fetched this week, their sleeper option. It's a tough matchup versus a decent New York Jet offense where they got a lot of weapons and should be putting more points on the board. When you got Rodgers, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Adams, I know Rodgers is 40 years old, but still with those weapons, more points should be scored. So this defense hasn't been great this season, obviously, for Indianapolis, but this week is a deep dive sleeper option with a few teams on bye and some good defenses with tough matchups if you want to replace them. I think Indianapolis could be a decent replacement as a sleeper. Week 8, Houston, 23 points allowed, 2 sacks, a fumble recovery. Week 9, a big game in Minnesota, 21 points allowed, 4 sacks, 2 interceptions, a fumble recovery, touchdown. And Week 10 versus the Bills, 24 points allowed, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions. So this week, like I said, at the New York Jets, maybe Rodgers, he's good for a couple turnovers, which his numbers have definitely gone up this season, turning it over. And you know, if you get a hand on Rodgers as well, he's going to go down because the mobility is totally gone at 40 years old. So if you need a deep sleeper off defense, they're out there in 88% of fantasy leagues. Next DST I have as a sleeper is the New England Patriots. So the Patriots out there in tons of fantasy leagues, in 92% of fantasy leagues. The last couple of weeks, they've gone out there and played good ball games. I know it was versus worst offenses. Week 9 at Tennessee, 20 points allowed, 3 sacks and interception. And then Week 10, they went into Soldier Field, shut that offense down, 9 sacks in that ball game and only 3 points allowed in the 19-3 victory. So New England this week, definitely a tough matchup with the Los Angeles Rams coming to town. But we've seen, even with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua in the lineup at times, Matthew Stafford in these road games, he struggles and they don't put a lot of points on the board where they settle for field goals. So I'm not saying New England's going to do that this week, play good defense like they did the last couple weeks. But I'm saying it's definitely a possibility with the cross-country trip. Stafford and this Ram team could be lagged a little bit, and their offense don't put up the numbers, and they turn the football over a little bit because this New England Patriot team, throughout the years, they've been a better home team than they've been on the road, especially defensively. And the last couple weeks, they've gone out there and played better football is New England. So right now, like I said, it's a deep dive sleeper, no doubt about it. Is this New England Patriot DST? But it wouldn't be surprising to me, like I said, with the cross-country trip and Stafford at times, you know, he puts in those stinkers. And the third and final defense DST I have as a sleeper is the Cincinnati Bengals. You know, the Cincinnati Bengal team can't stop anyone this season. And I also know this Los Angeles Charger offense is playing better over the last few weeks here, really getting it going and putting points on the board. Cincinnati, I'm surprised they're even owned in 26% of fantasy leagues. Still out there in 74% though. So the last few weeks for Cincinnati, Week 7 at Cleveland, 14 points allowed, 4 sacks, 2 interceptions, a kick return touchdown. Week 8 versus Philly, 37 points allowed. Week 9 versus the Raiders, 18 points allowed, 5 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries. And then last week, the doors blown off, 35 points allowed, and they didn't record a sack or anything. So this week, like I said, Chargers, they've been playing good. They're not really turning the football over. But for some reason, this game could be a grinded out type of ball game where Cincinnati's defense does surprise. But like I said, they're deep dive sleeper option. So if you're in a pinch and need a sleeper, I think Cincinnati maybe could surprise a little bit this week. So that's a few defense DST units I have as sleepers for Week 11 of the fantasy football season.